So let's see if $1,600 was too much to pay for this box of 13 Nintendo Switches. Immediately I see an OLED Switch. It doesn't feel like there's very much in there though. I don't know what to think of that. Same with this one. This one's just a regular, not an OLED. Oh, look at this. Now it'd be nice if the whole retail system was in here, but I feel like it's also just a tablet. We have a Switch Lite, and then we've got packages of what feels like tablets. There's another Switch Lite, another tablet, more tablets. So it looks like we do have 13 of them. I'm gonna get them all unpackaged and unboxed, and let's take a look at what we have. This video is sponsored by iFixit. More on them in a minute. So like I said, I did pay $1,600 for these 13 Switches. That comes out to about $123 each. Now these are customer returns, but they are labeled as salvage. So whether all of them are broken or not, that's what we're gonna find out today. But I don't have high expectations. Oh, now this one's a bummer. This is not even the special edition tablet. So basically, probably what happened is somebody just put a different tablet inside here and then returned it to the store. That's annoying. Now, if I'm gonna try and make some money on these, I'm probably gonna need to fix about 8 to 10 of them. I'm hoping some of these are simple fixes, or maybe if we're lucky, some of them might not even be broken, but we're about to find out. And here is number 13. Let's have a look at this Switch Lite and see what we've got. Oh my goodness. That is insane. Look at this thing. What? Somebody let their dog get a hold of it? Man, this thing is just mangled. I don't think I've ever seen a game console this messed up. I said maybe somebody's dog got a hold of it, but I don't know. These are pretty deep gouges, and there's like a big old chunk taken out of it. It might have been that somebody got angry at somebody else. It's really hard to tell. This one might be a good one to send over to Restorers for Robert to restore. Now that we've got them all unboxed, let's see if any of them just turn... Oh, that one turns on. Actually, let's just see how many of these turn on. So, these 4 so far turn on. How does this one turn on, though? That's what I want to know. Look at that. Yeah, that screen's definitely going to have to be taken care of. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that so far. Let's check the other ones and see how many of those turn on. All of them turn on? This is unprecedented in the history of TronicsFix videos. But also great news, because that means we probably don't have quite as intense of repairs on some of these, which is always nice. The downside of this though is I don't have any parts consoles to pull from in this lot. I've got a bunch sitting in my storage area, but from this lot itself, it looks like we might be able to do at least something with all of these. Some of them have obvious problems, like this one's got the rail missing, this one's got the joysticks that need to be replaced. I mean, we all know what's wrong with this one. But some of them, it's not as obvious. So I'm gonna do this testing off camera just because this is gonna take a long time and it's gonna get pretty boring. Okay, so you cannot use wireless communication because an error occurred. Press and hold the power button for 7 seconds to turn off the power and then turn the console on again. All right, let's give that a try. Okay, here we go again. Come on. Ah, same error. Okay, we'll take a look at that in a minute. I've gotten into these ones just a little bit and just made sure that they start up to the startup screen. I've gone through the setup and whatever, and so far, these ones all do that. So we'll take a look at these in a minute. Let's get started with this one since we know what the problem is. We need a new Joy-Con rail, and I already took a look at this one just a little bit, and one of the main problems with this is that the screw screws into this metal plate down in here, except for this Joy-Con was ripped off so hard that it totally ripped out the metal stud the screw screws into. So that is this piece right here. So this piece actually is supposed to be down in here, and that's what the Joy-Con would screw into. So we've got 2 options. We could put a new rail on here and put a screw here, and a screw here, and that would probably hold it on there. The other problem is that this metal plate down here looks like this. It's this whole plate right here, and the entire screen and everything is stuck down to this metal plate. So this is very integrated into the Switch. So I think the best thing we can do right now is actually just swap the board out of this into another switch that doesn't have that problem with these screw studs right here. For Black Friday and Cyber Monday only, iFixit tools and toolkits are 20% off in the US, Australia, and Canada. Additionally, they're giving up to 75% off in the US for all the products in their sale collection. They're also offering free standard domestic shipping for all orders over $80 when you use the code FREESHIP. In my opinion, iFixit's precision tools are some of the best out there. But they don't just sell tools, they also sell things like parts. You can get genuine OEM parts from a number of manufacturers right on iFixit's website. You can go right to iFixit and you can look up repair guides for your device. They even have repair guides for things like Patagonia clothing. And if you're trying to diagnose what's wrong with your device, they also have a great Q&A section where you can get answers from experts who have done your repair before. They offer a large selection of parts for your Nintendo Switch, so I highly recommend checking them out. I'll put a link in the description that'll take you right there. Now, some people might say, well, Steve, you're not even fixing anything, you're just replacing parts. And to that I say, for this specific repair, there's not really any way to fix it because those metal screw studs that were pulled off, there's no way to reattach those in a way that's going to be permanent. So yes, on one hand, that is true, I'm just replacing parts. On another hand, that's because that's really the only good option here, if I want to make this a good long-lasting Switch. Like I said in the beginning, I could just put the new rail on and screw in the screws that will go there, but I feel like that might not be as long lasting as fixing it correctly. And we can't forget the perfect amount of thermal paste. There we go. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem if someone were to do that and even resell it, as long as it's disclosed what repair has been done and why those other screws are missing. Then the person buying it knows exactly what they're getting, and the person selling it is being honest about what was done. I am putting the original back plate on, so it's got the original serial number and all of that. Now we can flip it over, try and turn it on, and see if it'll connect to Joy-Cons. Okay, and we get no power at all. Let's plug it in. There we go, we just need to charge this one up. So we'll let that charge, and we'll move on to the next switch. So that was number 6. Now we're gonna move on to number 2. I do realize I'm going out of order here, but some of them I just haven't found any problems with so far. And since it was a bunch of customer returns, there's a good chance that some of them work just fine. All right, so I know this is bad on this one. I don't see anything else wrong so far. So I'm gonna test just a couple more things. First of all, we need to test the game slot and make sure it plays a game, and then we can test these joysticks. All right, and it shows up just fine. So let's get this thing apart and replace this little flap. Give it a few more tests, and if it works, we'll call it done. Although, let me, let's check these thumbsticks real quick. Okay, no problems with that one. And that one also looks good. Now we'll take it apart and get this flap replaced. That is fairly disgusting. We're gonna have to clean that while we're in here. Let's give it a good soaking first. Rather than scrub away on it, I'm gonna soak it for a little while. And then I'll come back and just rub it off, you know, hopefully. And while that's soaking, let's get this replaced. Beautiful. Now, let's see if our soaking worked. Not very well. All right. I think it's time for a dental pick. We got a piece of glitter stuck in this even. And no, don't ask what this is. Actually, I think it's just like soda. But sometimes it's better not to wonder. And better. Now let's get the back cover put back on. Oh, apparently our other switch is done charging. All right, we'll check that in a minute. Now let's get the back cover on, as I was saying. And then this one should be done. I will test this more off camera, but I think we're pretty good on this one. And there we go. Switch number 2 needs a bit of a wipe off, but overall it's in good working condition. We'll test this a little bit more off camera just to test a few of the other functions, but overall, this switch is working great. Now the next thing I want to do is have a look at these Joy-Cons because I want to use them to test some of the switches we have here. Now part of the problem that I have with these is that this back piece is kind of broken and I don't have a replacement. These are the only white Joy-Cons that I have. So what I'm going to do here, I think, is try and fix this one up as good as I can. And then when I go to sell it, like I said earlier in the video, I'll just make sure and disclose everything that was done to it. But I'd really like to see if I can get this one at least functional. So I'm going to do that here in just a second. Let's get to number 6 and see if number 6 is working now that it seems to be all charged. Okay, and so far, initial results look good on this one. I don't see any problems. I do need to test it in a dock, but other than that, number 6 looks good. Now let's move on and get these Joy-Cons done. And this Joy-Con actually looks fine. I don't think there's an issue with this one. I think it's, yeah, that button's a little sticky. It maybe should be cleaned at some point. But this one is the real issue. So we've got this screw post that we need to remove from here. So let's try and do that now. Okay. Now this piece we're gonna have to keep because I think what I'm gonna try and do is glue it back on where it goes. But let's not do that yet. We got to get this thing apart the rest of the way first. And I am going to use a different rail because this rail is broken right here and there's just no way to fix that. Even if I could fix it, I don't have the piece for it. So I'm going to steal that from another Joy-Con, or we probably actually have this part just sitting around. So I'll use a different rail. All right. So what I'm going to do first, I think, is what we need to do is clamp this and then super glue it and see if that will keep it together enough so we can put a screw down there and it'll stay on. I am going to clean this thing first. This thing is just disgusting. Oh yeah, it's all sticky. That's just gross. If you want to see a video where a bunch of these get cleaned, Robert over on the Restores channel cleaned a whole bunch of these. It's a very satisfying video to watch, at least for me it was. Because there's just, I think he took apart like 20 of them all at once or something. And it just looks really cool. So if you like this kind of thing and you want to see more of these things getting cleaned, go over to the Restores channel and you'll see that video. Okay, better. Now that that's done, let's start doing some gluing. So we need to glue this part and then we need to glue the screw post back onto here. Just going to use a little CA glue down in there. And yeah, I'm very aware you can use baking soda and it'll cure faster and be stronger, and I might do that. I'm actually going to add some just along this whole crack right here, hopefully strengthen that part of it. Now I'm just going to let that cure, and then we'll come back once it's done and check it out. And I did actually just now realize that we can just go ahead and glue this post on while it's there. And we got to get this thing down as close as we can to how it was when it was torn off, because it'll just fit in there, fit down there better how it should and more like the how it was originally. Oh, almost had it. And then we didn't. Not perfect. I think that's about as good as we're gonna get it though. Might as well go all in and glue it up even more, make sure it's nice and strong. That way, if we have to fix it again, it's more difficult. So I've let this dry actually for days. I left it here over the weekend. So let's see, first of all, whether I glued it to my Omnivise or not. Nope, okay, that's good. And so far, it's actually staying together. Still got, obviously you can still easily see the crack there, but okay, so this part could be a problem though, because this piece still is kind of just like raised up off of there a little bit. Let's see. Oh, that actually sort of fits on there. I don't know if that's going to work for us or not. So I've been working on trying to get as much of the excess super glue out of this little area right here, because that's where the rail fits down into. I've gotten a lot of it, but I don't know if it's quite enough to get the rail to fit in there correctly. It's got to fit kind of like that. Okay, actually, I think that might work. We're going to give it a try. Okay, and then this guy, and then one screw Hopefully the screw goes in here. Okay, that seems to fit on there. All right, now we need to get these in here. I think I can do this without taking this apart the rest of the way, but I don't know for sure. It might be kind of difficult. All right, we're gonna have to take it apart. Sometimes you just have to ask yourself, what would a smart person do in this situation? And then do that. I think a smart person would take off this mid frame. It's just too difficult to get that on there correctly. Also, it's not gonna hurt to have a look at this and make sure those ribbon cable connectors aren't damaged or anything too, so we're not really losing much except for time. All right, now we can see what we're doing in here. And yeah, that actually looks okay in there. There we go. Okay. All right, that actually, there's still kind of a bump there, but that's mostly because this plastic is deformed, I think, and I'm not sure there's going to be a good way for me to fix that. Button seems to work. That button works, that button works. Okay, so all the buttons seem to work. I think we should try it, but first, we do have to fix these buttons. These things are just so sticky. Looks like probably some sort of soda or something got caught up in there. I'm gonna clean that real quick so it doesn't get on anything else and stick to anything else. And it looks like some of this stuff was liquid when they spilled it, and as far as I can tell, there's no corrosion on the board or anything. I mean, I can't really see the board that well, but there's no evidence of it that I've seen so far. All right. Oh no. Got a button that's totally torn off of the board. I don't know that I want to fix that today. I might just replace this board. But either way, whether we replace it or not, we've got to get down here and clean those buttons. All right, and the board itself doesn't look too bad, so I bet these buttons under here are going to be pretty gross. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I can feel the I can feel them when I went to take this off and they pushed against my desk here. Oh yeah, look at all that grime in there. That's gross. So I'm gonna use my pick and get down in the corners. That's actually coming off pretty good. Anything that's fairly dry, you can use something like this. Now obviously you have to be super careful with using any sort of metal on these, but I like to use it because it's very strong and it stays pointy. And now with all the buttons clean and the Joy-Con clean, we can get these buttons reinstalled. There we go. Those feel nice. Nice and crispy. And here is the replacement board with the button solidly soldered on. Next we have this fun part. All right, now. Oh, this would have been easier to do earlier. Come on. All right, got that one. How those buttons feel? Oh, that feels beautiful. Nice and clicky. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so these two Joy-Cons, not perfect, but much better than they were, and hopefully they'll actually work once we get them on to a Switch. And let's give these a test and see if they work. All right, let's give these things a test real quick. Oh, nothing on the plus button. Oh man, even after all that and now this button's not working either. So I think I know what might be wrong with this one, but this plus button I feel like should work. That's just strange that it doesn't. I'm gonna get this back apart real quick. Let's take a look at that and see what's causing that. So for this button that's not working, I'm gonna come in with some BW100, spray it over it, push it up and down, and hopefully I can clear out any gunk that might be preventing a good connection here. Spray a little more. This evaporates very quickly. Now let's test it and see if that cleaning created a good connection here. One probe on this pin, one probe on this pin, And my meter should beep when I press the button. Okay, there we go. And that cleaning seems to have fixed it. All right, let's see if that cleaning worked. Here we go with the plus button. Oh, heck yeah, it did. All right. So the right Joy-Con is all ready to go. Let's see what's wrong with the other one. And just as I suspected, this button is basically destroyed. Luckily, all we have to do is replace this board right here. And I believe it's attached to this board, but we just have this little assembly to replace, and then we can get that working. So let's get that done now, and hopefully that's all this controller needs. I love it when manufacturers make things modular like this, especially these buttons that so often go bad from people just mashing on them. It's really nice when you can just replace that one button instead of on the other side you have to replace the whole board because it's attached. I mean, like I said, sometimes that is fixable, but a lot of times it's hard to fix it permanently. But it is doable if you have the skill. A lot of people just don't though. Like, it takes a lot sometimes to fix some of this stuff. So if manufacturers make it a little easier to fix or just replace like this, that makes things more repairable. All right, and here we go. Let's see if that button works. Oh yeah, of course it does. Okay, these controllers are as fixed as they're gonna get, so we've got those done. Now I also tested these switches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 6 switches, and these are all fully functional as far as I can tell. So in this lot of 13, we have these 6 that work just fine. Now there's 3 of them that don't dock, so let's focus on those now and see if we can fix those ones. Let's give this OLED switch a test in the dock and see if we can get it to dock. I was playing around with it a little bit off camera, and I actually was able to get it to show up on the TV if I held it just right there. There we go. So we know it does dock, but as soon as I let go of it, the TV just turns black and doesn't connect. So let's take a look at this and see if we can see if there's anything, maybe the port is just dirty or something. Oh, here we go. Now it's coming on with it all the way down in the dock. But it's just not reliable. So let's take a closer look at that port. It's kind of hard to see very well, but there is some sort of like residue built up around the side of the port. The port itself doesn't look damaged, like the pins don't look damaged. I'm thinking it might be just really dirty in there. I think that's actually looking pretty clean. Let's put this thing in the dock and see what happens. Here we go, straight in. And turn it on. Green light on the dock. And, oh, still nothing. Okay, so I'm gonna take the back cover off of this so we can look at that port a little closer. Maybe there's some loose pins or something going on. And just looking at those pins, I don't actually see any problem there. Now with the battery disconnected though, we can really get in here and clean this port up really good from the inside here. So I went ahead and removed the motherboard from the console so we can have a little closer look at this port. You can see down inside the port, there's a lot of gunk down in there. Let's check the top side. It's hard to get on camera, but yeah, got some gunk there too. So I think maybe after we clean this a little bit better, this is gonna work just fine. I'm gonna be using a metal dental pick. Again, maybe not the best thing to use, but it's what I'm used to and it's what works for me. So I got quite a bit more work to do here. I'm gonna do most of this off camera and then we'll come back once it's clean, have a look at it. Now that looks a whole lot better. I think maybe we're in business with this one. Let's put it all back together and test it in the dock. We obviously need the perfect amount of thermal paste. And now with the metal plate on, we can toss the back plate on. And with the back cover on, let's put it into the dock and see if it docks. Green light on the dock. That's what I'm talking about. So this OLED Nintendo Switch just had a dirty port and all it took was simply cleaning it. Now we've got 2 more switches that don't dock. Those ones I think we're gonna need to do some work on the board, so let's get to that next. So the most likely cause of switch number 4 not docking is this little chip right here. This is the chip responsible for communicating whether the switch is in a dock or not in a dock, and it is a very common component that goes bad that causes this problem. So let's get under a microscope and inspect this one and see if we see any issues. Now, one of the ways to check whether this is faulty or not is to check whether any of these capacitors or filters up here are shorted. So we'll check that real quick. So I've got one probe on ground. Let's just double check and make sure it's working. Yep. We should hear a beep if any of these are shorted. And no beeps. So no issues with that. Let's get this P13 USB chip replaced, and then we'll see if that'll get it working. And while we're here, we're going to replace the P13 USB on switch number 3 as well, just because it has the exact same symptoms. And with those two chips replaced, let's put these boards back into their respective switches and then see if they work. And of course, the perfect amount of thermal paste in switch number 4 and the perfect amount of thermal paste in switch number 3. Okay, both back together. Let's put them in the dock and see what happens. So we have switch number 4. Got it docked. Do we have a green light on the dock? Oh, black screen. All right, so switch number 4 is working. Let's check out number 3. Green light on the dock. Black screen. And switch number 3 is working. So both of those switches we replaced the P13 USB are both docking now. Now with 3 and 4 fixed, we need to move on to number 9. This is the one with the error code. I don't think I've ever seen this error code before on a switch, so this should be interesting. And immediately I can tell someone has been in here. We've got some of the foam tape ripped off here. It looks like this has been replaced with a replacement part, so I'm not sure what we're getting into here. And let's see what's under the metal plate. Feel like this is not gonna be good. Okay, better than I expected. That is definitely not the perfect amount of thermal paste. I think when they put this together, they cleaned this part off, but not this part, and never put any more thermal paste on here. This is also a replacement game slot. You can see the seller's mark right there. All right, and now we can get the board out and have a look at it. So the first thing we're gonna test is these two capacitors right here. We're gonna see if there's any shorts over there. Not on that side. Not on that side. And my meter is working properly, so those look good. So the next thing we need to do is remove this piece so we can get under the shield to check out the Wi-Fi chip. There we go, almost got it. There we go. Okay, so we've got all sorts of flux in here. Somebody has definitely messed with that chip. Well, that's a bummer. Somebody's already tried that. I don't know whether they just refloated or whether they replaced it. By the amount of flux in here, I feel like maybe they replaced the chip, but I don't know for sure. So I've been going through and checking capacitors. This is number 9. This is the board we're working on to try and fix. These capacitors right here show no continuity on this side and continuity on that side. Let me get a better angle here. Okay, if we check that against one that we know is good, if I can find the right place here. There we go. This one has continuity across those capacitors, so from here to here. So what I'm wondering is, on this board, do we just have capacitors that are open from here to here? Is that all the problem is? I don't know. I think what we need to do though is replace these with the ones from the known good board and see if that'll fix it. Let's give it a try. All right, and with those replaced, we should get a beep here and here. Oh no. So that means that there's likely a problem with this chip. Let's try to reflow it and see if that happens to fix it. It probably won't, but it's definitely worth trying. Now reflowing just means that I'm gonna come in with my hot air station and heat it up until all the little solder balls underneath of it melt, and then I'll just let it cool down, which will also solidify those solder balls and hopefully restore any connection that might have been lost. And let's see if that did anything at all. Should get a beep, and should get a beep, and no beep. All right, so the real next move that a professional would do would be to remove this and install a freshly reballed chip onto this. I don't have one of those, and honestly, I'm not the best at reballing, so I'm gonna try something that is a bad idea, but it's already broken. So what I'm gonna do is just remove the chip from the donor board and then just install it onto this motherboard. The problem with that is the solder balls are not all going to be the same height, so there's a good chance though there will either not be a connection or there will be a short somewhere under the chip. But at this point, it's not going to hurt anything if we just try it. So let's give it a try and see if that happens to fix it. All right, so that actually went better than I thought it would. I'm still not very confident at all that it will work, but it actually snapped in place pretty well, and I feel pretty good about it for what we had to work with. So let's get this all back reinstalled into the switch and see if that happened to fix it. All right, let's see if this will now connect to the internet. Internet settings, come on. We're not getting the error it was giving us. I'm gonna try and reset this thing, and then we'll try it again. Okay, here we go. Searching for networks. Oh, no. Oh, such a bummer. We don't get that error code coming up, but it clearly has the exact same problem. So I was able to fix about 11 out of the 13. This one is definitely going to be fixable, but it's going to be kind of expensive to fix, so I'm not sure that there's going to be any profit in this specific one. And then we had the Animal Crossing one that we were not able to fix. It still does have quite a bit of worth though, just because people will pay quite a bit for it, even in its condition. All in all, I would probably at least break even and probably make a tiny profit if I were to sell these on something like eBay. I will be selling some of these in an upcoming Whatnot auction if you're interested in buying one for yourself. And number 13, I'm gonna give to Robert on the Restorers channel so he can make a full video just on this one, because I think it's going to come out amazing and it'll be fun to see the change. So if you want to make sure not to miss this video, go check out Restorish and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads over there. Thanks again to iFixit for sponsoring this video. Thank you for watching it, and I hope you have a good one.